Well, I'm going to chime in today regarding this auto industry bailout. First of all, I want to make it very clear that I am not anti-union. In fact, I'm pro-union in many ways. That's probably because I understand the history of the labor movement in this country and elsewhere. And it seems sometimes to me that some of the younger generation has forgotten what those movements were all about. You can go back to the French Revolution actually to see how the upper class elites in that country were basically, let's just say, taking advantage of everyone else at the bottom, and so that's what caused the French Revolution. And I might also add that our own country, our nation, was founded on some of those principles which called for more equality amongst the people. So, it goes way back. And people, particularly the younger generation, which is just so exposed to TV, and many people just don't read books and read history anymore, and they may not be informed about how their rights in the workplace as both employees, now that can go to blue collar or white collar employees, or even small businesses and so on, how that all came about. Without the labor and union movements in this country at the beginning of the century, or actually last century, none of us would have any kind of say-so in our working lives at all. There would be no regulated working hours, no regulated pay whatsoever. There would be no benefits, none. There would be child labor. There would be no vacations. It's basically, it was a continuous struggle from the 17th century on. And we're not moving forwards, we're moving backward now. The corporate elite doesn't look beyond their own noses, so to speak. What they are looking at is quarterly profits and lining their own pockets in the process. And the people, whoever they are, and in whatever nation they might reside in, do not count for those at the very top. What we're witnessing here today is an attempt to destroy the middle class in Western society. It is a race to the bottom to get the lowest wages possible across the globe for these people at the very top. And this momentum is succeeding, and it has to be stopped by the people, because if we don't stop it, this will have a very bad ending. The gap between the rich and the poor, not only within nations or within countries, but also between nations and countries, is growing wider and wider and wider. This is not a good situation, because the competition is not fair. The playing ground is not fair. How can a worker in a Western society compete with someone in China or India who is making 50 cents an hour? Now, granted, these other nations are trying to raise their living standards also, but it is all on the assumption that these living standards in those countries will eventually increase somewhat. Well, historically speaking, we're now seeing that this is actually quite the opposite, because people all across the globe, regular people, are being pitted against each other for the benefit of the very rich, the fewest people at the top. And so this is not just about the auto bailout. We cannot have a functioning society here in America without a manufacturing sector. We are at the mercy of global corporations to supply us with goods from elsewhere, while basically pulling the carpet out from underneath us. Our own society is at fault because we live in a completely ridiculous consumer society in which everything of value seems to center around money and accumulation of material goods. That's all nice and fine to a certain degree, but it's certainly gone overboard when you consider that probably 2/3 of the population on this planet lives on less than $1 a day. And there are going to be terrible resource wars between the rich nations, or the upcoming rich nations, and other nations, and between peoples. And so we have to put a stop to this. We have to keep speaking out against it. The younger generation in this country has forgotten how long it took for ordinary working people to even make a decent living in Western society. And when you hear, everything on TV and the mainstream media regarding auto workers making $80 an hour, that is just plain out false. These are aggregate figures. The unions have caved in to the demands of management every single time, and so what was once gained is now being lost. And everyone in this country deserves a decent wage, and on $7 an hour at minimum wage, you're not going to make it. You're not going to be able to feed a family, even if 2 of you are working at home raising kids. It's not enough. So people need to take a very serious look at what is being portrayed on television, all these luxury goods and high definition TV screens, reality shows, and all of that. Sure, yes, it creates demand, but demand for what? And at whose expense? So I think we need to take a long look at this, and I don't fault Michael Moore for speaking out on these issues. The manufacturing industry in this country has been destroyed, and so what we're facing here is a much more difficult situation than during the Great Depression, because at least we were still a self-sustaining nation. That's no longer the case. We are dependent on others, and the global elite, so to speak, I can't find a better word for it, but the very rich at the top, they don't care how they get their money or distribute it amongst themselves. And people across the globe struggling and just trying to make a decent living, it's none of their concern, really. So I will back Joe up on this video, and I know he's had some problems with his union as well, and it's not everything is hoochie coochie, and I'm not even in a union, but I will most definitely support the concerns of ordinary working people here and elsewhere across the globe. Thanks for listening.